The gaming industry is circling the drain, and live service games are leading the charge. These games are bleeding players, hemorrhaging money, and rapidly losing relevance, yet major publishers are still clinging to them like a sinking ship's last lifeboat. Instead of adapting to clear market trends, they're doubling down on a model that is actively failing. Meanwhile, single-player and traditional paid games, the same games that consistently dominate sales and critical acclaim, are being undervalued, ignored, or flat-out abandoned. It's an unsustainable contradiction. Studios are still chasing the live service dream, even as the reality of its slow-motion collapse becomes impossible to ignore. And yet, somehow, the warning signs are still flashing, and publishers remain blissfully unaware. Across every major live service title, players are fed up, and they're all complaining about the same stuff: skyrocketing prices, plummeting quality, and developers who seem more interested in selling skins than fixing their broken games. Games launch half-baked and stay broken, with cheaters and performance issues, which are apparently harder to remove than the microtransactions that fill these games. Meanwhile, content creators who built their career around some of these games are watching their audience vanish, proving that it's not just a rough patch, it's a full-scale implosion of the live service industry. At this point, the death cycle of live service games is no longer a debate of if, it's a countdown clock to disaster. Every year, the same discussions pop up. Is Call of Duty dying? Is Apex Legends finally on its last legs? Is World of Warcraft still relevant? What used to be hyperbolic doomsaying is now statistical reality. Apex Legends lost 70% of its player base in just 1 year, and it's not the only game in freefall. These massive franchises are shedding players at an accelerating rate, not because people are tired of gaming, but because they're tired of being milked dry by companies that treat them like walking wallets, and the industry's response is just more overpriced skins and shallow updates to these live service games, and this is why players just keep on walking away, and it's not hard to see why. There's one thing game studios love more than making a good game: it's monetization schemes. Instead of addressing core problems, developers keep tightening the screws on microtransactions, squeezing every last penny from their shrinking player bases. Black Ops 6 has lost nearly all of its post-launch players, but Activision would rather sell $30 gun skins than actually fix the gameplay. Ubisoft never wanted to be outdone in the greed department, jacked up Rainbow Six Siege's battle pass price, removed rewards, and even added a membership fee, all without adding any actual content. And Riot Games, a company that was once celebrated for its approach to monetization, has removed free cosmetics from League of Legends despite record revenue because not enough people were spending money. These companies are no longer making games for players, they're designing financial traps, and players are finally figuring out how to escape. Meanwhile, single-player games are thriving. We're in the middle of a renaissance where self-contained, well-made games are demolishing live service titles in both sales and player retention. Hogwarts Legacy outsold Call of Duty, proving that a story-driven experience can outshine even the biggest multiplayer franchises. Baldur's Gate 3 remains one of Steam's most played games, delivering a player-first experience with no microtransactions and winning Game of the Year in the process. Black Myth Wukong shattered concurrent player records, proving once again that gamers aren't tired of playing games, they're just tired of the nonsense that comes with live service models. The message from players has become crystal clear that they want games that respect their time and their money. We want meaningful stories, polished gameplay, and a sense of actual ownership over what we buy. Live service games, on the other hand, have become a second job, demanding daily logins, endless grinding, and an ever-growing list of paywalls. Publishers are still chasing the dream of infinite revenue, but the real financial goldmine is, and always will be, making great games that just sell themselves. But live service games aren't even about gaming anymore. They've morphed into financial experiments where every update, feature, and design decision is crafted to maximize engagement metrics and drive spending. In contrast, single-player games still focus on world building, compelling stories, and delivering an actual product. But in the live service space, those elements are irrelevant unless they increase player retention. Instead of making games people actually enjoy, publishers are engineering retention loops, psychological pressure tactics, and monetization gimmicks just to keep players on the hamster wheel long enough to justify the next battle pass. Developers have been reduced down to factory workers. There's no room for creativity when every decision is based on spreadsheets and engagement data. That's why every live service game feels the same. They're not being made with passion, they're being assembled like fast food, designed to keep you coming back just long enough to swipe your credit card. And even the people making these games are fed up. Developers working on Call of Duty, Apex, and Destiny have openly admitted that they aren't allowed to make real improvements to the gameplay. Activision, once home to some of gaming's most inventive studios, has gutted its own creative talent. Studios like Neversoft, Raven Software, and Radical Entertainment have turned into Call of Duty content factories, grinding out map packs, minor tweaks, and battle pass filler content, instead of creating actual new games. And the worst part of this all is that every live service game is just a reskin version of the older one. No matter what kind of live service game you're playing, they all seem to follow the same formula. You grind, you unlock a skin, and then you just repeat the process. And this is because for years, publishers weaponized FOMO so that they could get players into buying battle passes and skins. But the cracks in that strategy are now becoming impossible to ignore. Players have finally realized that none of these purchases actually matter in the long run. The second they move on to another game, all that money is wasted. The industry trained players to chase digital rewards, but now that same lesson is backfiring spectacularly. Spending on microtransactions is declining, not because people are gaming less, this, but because they know it's all temporary. Why buy skins when they'll be irrelevant in a few months? Why grind for cosmetics when the game itself might not even exist in a year? Live service games is turning into a glorified rental system, and players are starting to see through this illusion. The writing is on the wall, live service gaming is unsustainable, and the industry is running out of excuses. For years, publishers have banked on monetization first, assuming that players would just keep spending, keep grinding, and keep coming back for more. But now, the cracks have turned into fault lines, and the entire model is on the verge of collapse. Players are leaving in droves, spending is drying up, the engagement is in a free fall, and the only ones who haven't noticed are the executives still doubling down on a sinking ship. Meanwhile, single-player games are thriving, proving that people are still willing to buy games, just not the ones that nickel and dime them to death. The success of Hogwarts Legacy, Baldur's Gate 3, and Black Myth Wukong proves that the real future of gaming isn't endless monetization schemes. It's making great games, but publishers refuse to learn that lesson, instead betting everything on another wave of disposable live service titles that no one asked for and nobody will remember. Well, that's all I have for today's video. If you guys did enjoy it, please leave a like and comment down below your thoughts. I appreciate you guys for making it to the end, and as always, have a good one.